deduction warrants. The first one is 1423A, $4,766.
Second that, all in favor?
Aye. And the last one, second DW deduction warrant is 14-24A, for a total of $34,266.05.
Second that, all in favor?
Aye.
You all set, Tracy?
Yep.
This is our Board of Selectmen meeting. It's December 30th, 2013. We just started, so about 3 minutes ago, so we'll call it 6:22. All right, next up we had Dan McDonald, who's going to come in and give us an update.
Okay. Well, I'm the chairman of the GAC, as you know, Government Advisory Committee, and we've had discussions in our meetings, and we've come up with some recommendations. We forwarded some of them to the Board of Selectmen at a prior meeting about a month ago. It was at the request of the Government Advisory Committee that we requested the Board of Selectmen vote on as many of those as you deem appropriate. I thought it prudent to come here and ask you if there's any concerns you have about scope. You've probably been following the Government Advisory Committee meetings, and we've invited a number of government representatives through committees or department heads to come before us and to address us as to any recommendations they may have for, relative to our charge or the organization and structure of a town government. In listening and connecting those meetings, we came up with a number of recommendations, and we submitted them to you about a month ago. So the GAC would like the Board of Selectmen to take those under consideration and vote on those, and acknowledge the work of the GAC and its efforts to improve town government.
All right, so as far, the charge was to look at 3 to 5 selectmen,
Yes.
and then look at what other roles the new Board of Selectmen were gonna encompass as to other duties in the town, correct?
Yeah, and I wanted to clarify that, and clear the air on that, because a number of people have their different views on what our charge is and how to interpret that. Literally, the charge of our committee is, reading it essentially on October 10th from Nancy. Committee to concentrate on whether the membership of the Board of Selectmen should be increased from 3 to 5 members. Review the current organization status of Groveland's town government and report back to the Board of Selectmen with the committee's findings at completion of their work. It's a very broad charge, and and the underpinnings of that, I mean, how it was advertised, it was even more in broader scope to that. I have other correspondence here relative to that subject. And it seemed not a narrow scope, but a broad scope on recommendations of the town government itself. So, again, we try to keep it to the focus, into the interaction between the Board of Selectmen and how boards and committees and department heads communicate with the Board of Selectmen, and what that organizational framework is. But, the practicality of it is people get involved, and there are, everyday issues that some people want to talk about, and it's easy to go off on some tangents. But I think we'll try to be through that and stay on charge. So I'm going to come here today and clear the air if you have any issues or on that subject, and also to give you a update on what we plan on doing over the next few months.
Okay, so there's still more to do?
Yeah, well, we haven't, there are many committees and departments, and we hope to have an open door policy on any committee or department, or for that matter, anybody in the public that, you know, wants to come forward and express their ideas and opinions on what, you know, the organization and the structural changes, if any, should be made to town government. So we're planning on having a few more meetings in January, hopefully two, maybe one in early February. We planned on taking a break until after the town meeting and the elections, because there will be a ballot question, I understand, the expansion of the Board of Selectmen from 3 to 5, so.
If so voted.
If so voted, if not, but let's just say that it is voted. I mean, we should certainly reconvene after that and see if there are some duties that may, that we could recommend to those, to the Board of Selectmen, the new members, the old members. So,
Right, I mean, that was more so what my understanding was, that this was supposed to be all about. You know, Bill Dock was in recently, we had asked him a question, and he pretty much had said the same thing, that it was to look to see what duties, you know, this new Board of Selectmen, if it was 5, would take on. You know, so, I mean, as far as, that was the only organizational changes that we were looking at, you know, in the questioning, to my knowledge.
Yeah, but I can see the confusion, because as it was advertised initially, you know, and I have an email here, it says, hello, the Board of Selectmen voted at their meeting of September 24th to appoint you all to a newly formed committee to study and make recommendations concerning potential changes to town government, i.e. increasing the size of the Board of Selectmen from 3 to 5 members, adding to the selectmen's responsibilities should the size of the board be increased, looking at other areas of town government and possibly making changes, et cetera. So that's that tail end, that et cetera, where is that the all-encompassing, so. If,
Can you reread that was in September, can you please reread the actual charge itself
Yeah.
of October 10th?
yeah,
I think you really need to read all the minutes and see the discussion. That's where I
Well,
think is the confusion.
well, that's just it, so
You're
there
gonna
were-
get us the minutes and everything for us to look over, is that what's?
No, I mean, our minutes,
Oh.
when Bill and you were, you know, and Betty were discussing what they wanted.
Okay.
Bill was pretty clear the other night when he was here.
Right, and that's what that was my
But I
understanding.
think you need to read the whole minutes to see what the discussion was all about.
That's right, because, I mean, I look back to, that was an advertisement, and that was, and whether or not that was boiled down or it morphed into something different, ultimately there was a charge, and I've read that charge, I can read it again if you like to, Joe. But if that's it, you know, here we are to clarify, if that's what the Board of Selectmen is looking for, going forward, we could certainly tailor our discussions to that charge, but,
I mean, Betty's not here tonight, so
Yeah.
I mean, we probably,
Alright.
would either we, you know, meet again on it or something.
Yeah, I
discuss that.
don't want there to be any guesswork, and I certainly don't want to
Yeah, but I mean-
exceed
but I think really what
any
the-
scope.
What the idea was to look at 3 to 5, make a
Mhm.
recommendation, which you did. And then if it went to 5, what additional committees or subgroups in town should this board take on as far as its own responsibilities? Instead of just adding 2 more people and not giving them things to do, it made no sense.
I think to a degree, you have to look at all of government, and a lot of the times we've gotten feedback between the different boards and departments, and if you go to 5 and you interact, then that's gonna be helpful to let you know how that interaction should be, so.
Yeah.
I understood it to be at 3 to 5 and then look further as to structure, communication, or perhaps some difficulties in communication between the department and.
So everyone had their own interpretation.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Maybe it wasn't made quite clear, we certainly
Well-
spent a lot of time on this.
Okay.
For the record, can you say who you are?
Oh, John Christopher, member.
And you're on the
Yeah.
Government Advisory Council also, committee. Very good. Just for the record also, so the public is aware of the scope of the discussion, the Government Advisory Council was convened with 2 charges. One of them was to, as already been stated, whether we should go from 3 to 5. that was recently passed into law, and at some future point, we should discuss that. But there's two components to that people should understand. We still have to vote on it at a ballot, and then we still also have to vote for 2 more members. So there's really 2 more steps before we have 5 members. So the next major step is whether or not the people of Groveland want that, and that has to be elected at the ballot. The second charge is to study government, or it should have been more perhaps limited to what the 2 new members should do, or all 5 members should do if there is a 5-member board. And that should be a completed work. So if we have 1 or 2 or 3 more meetings, that should go into the list of recommendations, my opinion. And then, your goal is to have a couple of meetings in January, possibly 1 in February, and then we're basically done until there's the potential for us to reconvene if there is a 5-member board elected.
Correct, and
That's
with
the
that,
idea.
we'll draw up a conclusion, gather our recommendations, submit a report to the Board of Selectmen, and adjourn before the end of our appointment, which is in June.
And could you give just a very brief summary of what type, or even examples of recommendations that the Government Advisory Council has made? For example, so people get a flavor of what we've done, or what the group has done?
Well, in talking to committees and people in the know, one recommendation was to, just the procedural information issue, was to recommend that all minutes, after approved by a town board or committee, that must be posted electronically on the town website and on file with the town clerk within 72 hours. So it was just talking, you hear certain themes come up, in talking to various people, and that's how we collected our information, listening, and lack of information or lack of minutes. So it seems, there's a simple recommendation, is that.
Did you guys do that?
Say
Did you
again?
guys do that?
Have we done that? We've broken our own rules.
See?
We actually have. I think we have. Nancy did set up a link for our committee and has posted them in the minutes.
We should lead
Not,
by
not
example.
all of them.
Not all of them,
ones
and
I
not in the
received.
not in the time frame that you're saying, but.
All right, I'm sorry.
Well, yeah,
Go ahead.
Do as we say, not as we do.
Okay.
That's why they have to be approved, Donnie,
Oh.
the recommendations.
We wouldn't do it without your approval.
All right, so you interview, so again, for the public's awareness, you
So
interview.
again, is
you
that part of
interview-
the organization? Sure, because if the public's not informed about what goes on, it's disorganization.
Give
So
another
I don't-
recommendation if you can.
So there's another recommendation
something.
to reduce costs to taxpayers, it's a procedural recommendation to ask town departments to explore insourcing versus outsourcing in order to reduce costs of projects. The Board of Selectmen must help determine if the town has the capacity to do a project using in-house resources, if available. Project must be completed in-house, so if you're capable of doing it, you can save costs, then why not make that a requirement to at least be looked at first? And if if the answer's no, it's cheaper to outsource, then that's a no-brainer.
And
So,
the
so,
committee,
but procedurally,
sorry.
these mechanisms aren't in place from what we're hearing.
Although we do have some projects that we have done that.
I understand, I understand. Yeah, and other things about organization, I mean, we have in town, and it's been quite the civics lesson for myself, and probably many other people, but we have various departments where the department heads are elected and others that are appointed. So certainly there's a control issue there, and what can and can't be mandated, but certainly most people in town work together, and if it's a good idea, it should be advanced. So, and we spoke with the road commissioner, and he recommended that the position should be appointed.
As we have 3 years
So,
to the town and it
if
gets
the
voted
town
down.
doesn't want it, I guess you can lead them to water, you can't make them drink, but certainly we're listening to, people, again, that, I believe are in the know, they have the experience and they do the job, every day or every week or every year, I don't, so we lot of listening instead of talking at people. So that was one of our recommendations. As far as engineering, again, and cost savings measures, just looking at, you know, to conduct an investigation of current engineering costs to explore if in-house engineer is feasible for the work to be done in town. Some towns have a town engineer.
We did too.
That could stamp drawings, so, you know, and again, it's taxpayer, it's customer friendly potentially, as long as the town doesn't have exorbitant fees on top of it, but certainly if you had an in-house, engineer to take a look at, drawings, you know, you might not have to spend thousands of dollars on your porch addition, you know, having an engineer or a PE draw it up, or an architect, so it could be win-win for the government and the taxpayer. So, these are some things we're hearing, and it speeds up, timelines, I would think. It would, shorten lag times, you know, zoning issues. We've heard discussions that the zoning bylaws need to be updated. Heard that recurring theme. I'm new to the ZBA as an alternate member, but, yeah, I mean, if you have zoning bylaws and you have zoning districts, you should have at least one permitted use within the district, or you might be arguably engaged in spot zoning, so, we've identified issues, there's been an agreement that there are things that need to be changed, so it's a matter of somebody picking the ball up and running with it. So are these organizational, changes? Sure, I think they are. So, there's a few others if you want me to read them, but.
And can you give a flavor a little bit for the public?
Those are some examples,
Who are some of the people that were interviewed and were invited that provided, if you will, testimony and advice to us? Because it was a smart group, but we didn't come up with all the ideas ourselves.
No. And I'm going over 10 minutes, I wanna respect the time.
I thought I only gave you 5, but 10.
I asked for 5 and I was allotted 10, so I
Okay,
really
all right.
appreciate that. But we talked to the finance director, we talked to, members of the planning board,
Yeah.
not great with names, you were,
Health,
health,
assessors.
assessors
The assessor's
office, yeah,
office.
Deb Webster, we talked to the superintendent
Finance.
last meeting, and somebody say, well, what's that got to do with our structure? Well, it's 60-some-odd% of your dollar bill there, you know, in the budget, so, it's a big push-pull impact on town government, so, it absolutely is related to the organization. It has a ripple effect on, everyone in town. So we got a wealth of information from our new superintendent. If anyone watched the meeting, I thought it was, very informative. So, again, those are organizational issues, and it's a macro. It's easy to go off on some micro tangents, but I think we'll try to look at the big picture,
Good.
as best as I can see.
Excellent.
All
Well,
right.
we'll make sure that, you know, when Betty's with us, you know, another time, we'll discuss some of the things and see, you know, what we can encompass, what we can't.
Okay.
And, thank you very much for your service to the
You're
town.
welcome.
Well done, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Happy New Year, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Happy New Year.
Okay, next up, we got Dave coming in to give us an update on, your discussion with Haverhill with regard to bridge naming.
Dave Tuttle, Commander at American Legion, Post 248 in Groveland here, and you, Board of Selectmen, assigned me a task of going to Haverhill and getting their approval or disapproval, whichever came out. And I had gotten letters.
Thank you.
There's a copy of the letters that I hand-delivered along the way.
Thanks, Dave.
And these are copies of the letters that I've received back from all the veteran organizations from both Haverhill and Groveland recommending, and here's the original, you want the original, Slate? Recommending the, addition of the 2 words veteran memorial bridge name, so I guess it's in your hands from this point on, but this is, there's quite a few letters there saying it was recommended.
So there was plenty of support, and
I had no, as a matter of fact, in Havel, one of the city councilors actually said, I'm very upset with you, and I said, oh, and she says, because I didn't think of it first. So, that's.
so they were
It
receptive.
was unanimous support. Mike Ingram from the Veterans Administration went to all the veteran organizations, because they meet once a month, and spoke to them in my behalf.
Mhm.
And like I say, you have the letters from just about, I think, every organization in Hamilton, so veterans wise.
Very good. So at this point here, is Bruce pursuing the state side of it?
This is going back to you people
Oh,
now.
back to us, the
and,
nation, okay.
I don't know what the next step is.
All right. Well, I'm sure we can forward all the information to Senator Tar and Rep. Mira and see if they can get the support at the state level.
Okay.
Sounds-
Just so you know also, again, for the benefit of the public, the city of Haverhill and the town of Groveland cannot rename the bridge. That is strictly done by state law and by the general court only, not even the Department of Transportation has jurisdiction over renaming the structure. So all of the support that you receive, which is really exciting to see, is strictly symbolic. And I think that the only real next step, besides getting a symbolic approval from this board, or symbolic blessing, if you will, or endorsement from this board, which I would recommend doing that in writing, similar to what was done with, by Mayor Fiorentini and the other officials, is that we provide a letter. I would recommend that we provide a letter of support as well. And then you would take that, as Donnie said, to Senator Tar, if you would like to sponsor a bill to rename the bridge. And again, for the public interest and knowledge of what's going on here, we don't want to rename the bridge. It's the Congressman Bates Bridge, and that will retain that name, but we're gonna add additional words to it, the Congressman Bates and Memorial, Veterans Memorial, Congressman Bates and Veterans Memorial Bridge. And then at that point, I would also recommend writing into the law something that you folks had talked about, and that is getting also permission or embedded in the law that will give you the right, and Haverhill the right, to put up individual plaques of members who have passed away or have died in combat, perhaps. And we can't do this with a home rule petition because there's two communities involved. The home rule petition would apply only if this was a Groveland issue, like the 5-member board. So it's a very interesting scenario. You have to get two symbolic approvals or endorsements from two separate towns, and then the rest of it is driven by a state law, by a very capable legislator that you can align yourself with. And if that is Senator Tar, then I think you're gonna be in very, very good hands. So I will say though, without Betty here, and that was unfortunate and unexpected, Donnie, perhaps you'd agree with me, I wouldn't wanna vote on doing a letter of
I
support.
think it would be fine if we wanted to do that.
If you wanted to, that's fine,
I
okay.
have copies for her also.
Okay, that's fine. I wanted to defer to the chair.
So if you wanna make a motion that we
Yeah.
do an endorsement letter, I'd.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. I appreciate that. Then let me make that motion. I'd like to make a motion to provide a letter of support for the local veterans group to rename the bridge and to initiate the process of legislation to create a law to make
Should we
this
say
happen.
rename or
No,
to
to
add
add
to
the
it?
two
Because
words.
the rename is,
To add the veterans.
Yeah, we don't wanna
memorial.
rename it.
All right, I'll second that.
Okay, thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Excellent. Well, hopefully we can get you enough support to, get some outcome from it.
Well, we take these from Betty or?
Sure,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you very much for all the work you guys put into it. I know, I did hear about the meeting in Haverhill and heard that it went very well,
It did.
and
It went very well.
they received you well, and that
Yep.
was a good.
Thank you for your time.
Thank
Appreciate
you
it.
very much.
Well
Happy
done,
New Year.
thank you.
Okay.
Right.
If we could jump down to the needs attention, just so we can get those. We have to vote some Class 2 used license renewals for 2014. So make a motion that we approve Greenwood, now are these all in good standing? We have no issues, no complaints?
No.
Okay. To reissue the license for 2014 for Greenwood Auto Body on 863 Salem Street, South Salem Street Corp., doing business as Price Right Automotive at 737 Salem Street, Auto Repairs, etc., Limited at 923 Salem Street, Body T. Issa, doing business as Groveland Auto Repair and Sales Incorporated at 944 Salem Street. Would you like to second that?
Yes, I'll second those.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
And I gather we have to sign those as well?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see now.
Ignore the two, I was
Two.
interrupted and I didn't cut out the bottom two that was from the last agenda, so you go back up to where the time is and.
So I
those-
can cross these two up?
Yeah, those are from the last.
Okay. These two at the bottom, we already addressed those.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, so we have left to discuss with Fire Chief Lay on a contract, and also a discussion on a land purchase. That would be executive session. Did you wanna do executive session on the other? So will be executive session on the last two items, and then we're gonna adjourn. Mike, did you need us? Or you're gonna stay for one of them sessions?
Here for the land purchase.
Okay. All right, so, Tracy, will be, ending the meeting at that point, but wanted to wish everyone a happy new year. Thank all the town employees for all their work, and all our boards and commissions and appointed committees, firemen, police. I mean, we really appreciate everything everyone did for us in 2013, and we look forward to 2014. So happy new year. All right, make a motion that we go into, why don't we do the land, which one's gonna be quickest?
Well, I would think both, probably the land one, because you just have to decide whether
All
you're
right,
going
so
to
we'll,
extend it.
make a motion, we go into executive session under Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, Number 6, to consider extending the purchase and sale agreement for real property on Center Street. I would determine that it would be detrimental in our position on the body's negotiating position, so that's why we're gonna do the executive session. Want to second that?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Brandy, yes?
The more yet?
Okay. Shut us
Well,
down.
we'll have to leave for that one.
We'll be quick.
Come back